Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel and back to the top 5 series where we are ranking the top 5 decks of each attribute of all time. Today we're going to be ranking the top 5 Earth attribute decks of all time, which is probably the most competitive attribute for this series. I think Wind and Fire have been total crap, Water was alright, and Earth just has a ton of competition for the top 5 spots, and it's very hard to rule some out, to rule some in. Do you group some things together? Do you not? It's a real mess. But anyways, we're gonna give it a shot, and as a quick recap, the decks we consider are decks that are comprised nearly entirely of all Earth attribute monsters, and then we also consider which decks had the highest peak success in their career, aka how many big events did it win or get, top 2, top 4, and then what is the long-term success? Over how many formats did this deck top? Over how many formats was it relevant? So those are the criteria we'll be thinking about when we're ranking. Let's go ahead and get started. Deck number 5, the 5th best Earth attribute deck of all time. I'm going to give to our favorite dessert-based strategy, and of course I'm talking about Madolche. So Madolche came out around Return of the Duelist, I think that was about 2012, and with that, Madolche gave us one of the first non-target removal cards, Madolche Queen Tiramisu, and it topped a quality number of events back then. I think it was pretty darn relevant until it got power crept out of existence by Dragon Rulers and Spellbooks. It'd be around tier 2 pretty much until now. Madolche has been like in the corner of your eye, creeping up, topping every now and then a regional, pretty much over the course of 10 years. I think right now is actually very strong as well, with the existence of the Furnace Sylph cards. Very good for the strategy. So anyways, yeah, I think Madolche sneaks into the number 5 spot. Moving up to number 4, we're going to go even older than Madolche. We have to remember some of the older decks in the game, even though they're not relevant now and they haven't been relevant for a long time, but X-Saber is the number 4 best Earth deck of all time. X-Saber pretty much just consists of an archetype that all it does is just extend, replenish your hand with Dark Soul, and then also it features 2 of the best boss synchro monsters for an archetype of all time in Gotems, which rips a card out of your opponent's hand. And then we have X-Saber Hyunlei, which takes out 3 cards in the back row, which is pretty incredible for formats where there weren't really summon negates at the time besides like Solemn Judgment. So anyways, yeah, if you could summon Hyunlei, you pretty much won the game. Alright, moving on to deck number 3, the 3rd best Earth attribute deck of all time, is something that peaked very hard, very quickly, and then fell off, and that deck is Gouki. So Gouki was very strong in about 2018, 2019, I want to say. It just kind of took the meta by storm, topped a lot of huge events, and then fell off pretty much immediately. It came back around a little bit with like the Dark Warrior strategy, but other than that, not too much. But it was one of the first decks to feature the U-Link, where you could use both extra deck monster zones at the same time and pretty much prevent your opponent from link summoning anything or summoning anything from the extra deck. So that was an incredibly powerful strategy if you're able to go first. Moving on, deck number 2. Okay, so this is very difficult. I wasn't sure what deck to put here. I wasn't sure whether to group things, and I decided to group things. I think there was too many strategies where there were 2 or more archetypes put together based on a common feature, and I am talking about Earth Machines. Okay, so Earth Machines is a name that's been around for a very long time. Within Earth Machines is included Machina Gadgets, Machina Geargia, Geargia Karakuri, Machina Geargia Karakuri, Machina Karakuri, Infinitrack Machina, Infinitrack Trains, Infinitrack Machina Trains. You get it. There's just so many decks revolving around Earth Machine archetypes that it was impossible to pick one out and say one is better than any other throughout the game. Gadgets were very strong on their own, Geargia was strong on its own, Machina was pretty good on its own, but altogether, the Earth Machine deck is really what you're talking about. They might as well be all the same name, archetype. It wouldn't make any difference, and therefore I'm going to put it all in one category in the number 2 spot. Earth machines have been relevant since Gadgets came out in like 2009 or 2010 or 8 or something. I don't even know. But pretty much since then until now, some Earth machine strategy has been like relevant in the meta, from Gadgets to Geargia, you know, through like Dragon Ruler era. And then we had like Machina and Infinitrack in recent times and so forth. So I'm gonna give the machine strategy the number 2 spot just for the damn long time that it has been around in the game, that it's been a decent deck choice for all players. It's gotta have the number 2 at least best Earth strategy of all time. And moving on to number 1, you probably know what this is. The most famous tier 0 format of all time. I think the most dominant a deck has ever been relative to its meta. Even now, 4 of its cards are still on the Forbidden and Limited list from, I think, 4 years ago when it was at its peak. And I'm talking about Zoodiac. Okay, so Zoodiac introduced into the game the concept of the 1-card XEs, which is an absolutely preposterous idea, considering the history of XEs needing 2 monsters of the same level. You put them on top of each other, you make an extra deck monster. Except you don't even need 2. You just need 1. And it broke the game, and it still kind of breaks the game. We tried to bring Dryden back. We tried to bring Zoodiac Dryden back, and it broke the game again. Made Zeus far too easy to make. So we had to put it right back on the ban list. We still have Dryden banned, we still have Broadwell banned, we still have Barrage banned, we have Rat Pier at 1, I believe. So, 4 cards on the list, 3 of them banned. Definitely the most powerful deck of all time relative to its meta. You know, I think it had something like 90-something% representation in all the events when it was legal. So there's no other deck we can put in the number 1 spot besides Zoo. I left a few good decks out of this top 5, and understandable if you are not in agreement with the top 5 list. I want to hear about it. I want your opinions in the comments, but let's go ahead and give those honorable mentions, the decks that did not make the top cut, because they definitely deserve to be mentioned. Unlike the other attributes like wind and fire, all the honorable mentions were absolute garbage, but for the earth ones are very good. So let's go ahead and start with Qliphort. Qliphort was a dominant deck. I think it might have been the best deck of its time back in Duelist Alliance format. When it first came out, I think it was Duelist Alliance? Around there. Anyway, Secrets of Eternity, something like that. Gotta give some recognition to this amazing deck. Next one we have is Naturia. Okay, so Naturia as a deck as a whole, I don't think it was really ever popular until right now with Mole Cricket. Yeah, I don't think as a whole deck Naturia was ever that good. We still had Naturia Beast, which is a force throughout the whole history of the game, but that doesn't make the whole archetype good. So, but I just still wanted to mention Naturia. They offered a lot of good things to the game. Okay, now I want to mention, I think, the strongest deck of all time, and it has 0 tops ever. 0 tournament wins, 0 tournament tops, 0 tournaments, because that deck was at its peak entirely during the time of COVID and pandemic and quarantine era, and that is Adamancipator. So Adamancipator might be the strongest deck ever. And before it could get any tournament play, Block Dragon got banned, which was the, I guess, heart and soul of that deck. And therefore, it never saw any tournament life. It's got to be out of the top 5, even though it could have been the best deck of all time. We don't know for sure. There's no evidence, so we got to leave it out, but still, definitely got to mention it. Next, we have Scraps. Okay, maybe that's pretty low tier honorable mention, but still a mention. We have Subterror. Nobody wants to talk about Subterror, understandably. You know, a lot of PTSD. But Guru by itself is not going to make the top 5 list. And then we have Traptrix. Okay, so Traptrix, very strong in hat format, of course. Hand Artifact Traptrix, which is, I guess, a Traptrix deck. But, you know, I don't think that archetype by itself is what made the format. I think it was the artifacts more so than anything. And, you know, other than hat, it hasn't really done anything. It does have a structure deck coming out, so maybe the next time we do one of these top 5 Earth videos, Traptrix might be up there. But right now, I don't think it has enough clout compared to the rest of the decks in the top 5 as Earth attribute strategies to be in there. So Yeah, those are our honorable mentions. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment. Do you agree? Do you not? I want to know about it. Subscribe to the video. I want to hit 500 subs to open that community tab, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on the video if you did indeed like it. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.